When the Spirit says do, you got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You gotta sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing. Oh Lord, you got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You got to shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you got to shout. Oh Lord, you got to shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You gotta laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you got to laugh. Oh Lord, you got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 And you gotta cry. You got to cry when the Spirit says cry. You got to cry when the Spirit says cry. When the Spirit says cry, you got to cry. Oh Lord, you got to cry when the Spirit says cry. 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 You gotta dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you got to dance. Oh Lord, you got to dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You gotta do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
presence. And one more thing. A match.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a lively bunch today. It's the Thanksgiving food, right? And return to sunshine. This month, I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa. For those who do not know me, I am privileged to serve this congregation. This month, which can be so focused on presence with a T, and I'm not knocking presence with a T, we ask ourselves what it means to live love through the practice of presence with a C. Such a seemingly small and simple thing, and yet located underneath our many busy layers, presence is one of the most valuable and powerful gifts we can give, not only to others, but also to ourselves. On this first Sunday of Advent, for our Christian neighbors and friends and the members who look to this, the month-long anticipation of arrival, the advent of Jesus' birth and deep value of love and compassion that his life and his teaching represent. On this day, we have lit our chalice, the symbol of this Unitarian Universalist tradition, to call us to our own deep central value of love and the presence it invites within us and through us. Now, those who are familiar with this place will have noticed that we aren't showing slides to announce the various parts of the service this morning. Their absence is conscious and an invitation to be focused on what's happening right now, rather than what's coming next. We hope that not having the slides will be an invitation to be present, including to our land acknowledgement, offered this morning by Charlene Dugan, one of your board members.
Good morning. Each Sunday, we remind ourselves to remember that the history of this area continues to live in people's lives and bodies, including our own. With the symbol of these black oak acorns, we remind ourselves that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, resilient beyond genocide and generations of erasure and exclusion from California's history. Let us remember with care and commitment that we gather today on Nisenan land.
I have a job to do. There was no slide.
You were so present.
I was so present, that was it. So to greet one another this morning, in a moment, I am going to invite us to connect, to offer our presence to each other without words today. For those of us with clear enough vision and those comfortable enough, I will invite us to look around at the faces and the eyes of our travel companions this morning, to quietly take each other in with kindness and compassion and openness. Now, Zoomers on Zoom, good morning. Here's your chance to turn on your camera and to connect as well, to offer your presence to each other. And if vision is not available, or if that's not a comfortable pathway, sometimes eyes are very easily stimulated. If that's not comfortable or available, I invite you to feel the presence of those around you, those near you, to sense that presence, drawing on your other senses, including your intuition and maybe even your imagination. So please help make sure that everyone who wants it gets a warm look or a quietly felt welcome. I invite you, without words, to welcome each other. Wow, this is beautifully lively, even in silence. Thank you, and of course later, after the service, I invite you to use your words.
Good morning. I am Lindsay Dunckel, and I am delighted to be here with you this morning. I just would like to point out that there are 6 chairs right up front here. If anyone is looking for a seat, please come find one. And Scotty will lead the way.
Or if someone wants to free up a seat.
Yeah. And if anybody has an empty seat next to them, could you raise your hand so people could see where they are? Thank you. So I'd like to invite the young people who are here, who have arrived already, who are going to be heading upstairs to Kids Connection in a few minutes with Cheryl and Linda. I'd like to invite you to come up and choose a rock to have and to keep. Come on up if you're willing. It's a holiday weekend. Hi, Ruby. We're going to do just the kids right now, and then everybody will get a chance. Yeah. People here this morning brought rocks to share, or they collected one at the door and they brought them forward earlier this morning. Aren't they beautiful? Thank you for bringing them. Are there any rocks that are lingering in hands that haven't had a chance to make it up yet? You can either bring them up or you can raise them up and we'll come get them. Thank you. So every person here is going to get a chance to choose a rock to take home, like a gift from the earth. So kids, do any of you have a rock collection at home? Some of the grown-ups too. Yeah, my children who grew up here in Nevada County, they have a theory that every Nevada County kid has a rock collection, and some grown-ups too. That beautifully striped rock that you find on a trail that you just can't resist, the smooth white one that feels good in your hand, the dark jagged one that fits your mood some days. For hundreds of years, people in many, many different cultures around the world have come up with the idea of holding a rock or a stone to ground themselves. In ancient Greece, in Tibet, in Ireland, these were used to help us feel less stress and worry. And if you keep your rock in your pocket or in your purse or your backpack or on your nightstand or on your desk or someplace where you will always know where it is, it can offer just a little bit of magic, a way of reminding you that you are right here, right now, standing on the planet Earth, which is made of rocks of many kind. In fact, in English, while the other planets are all named for ancient gods, our planet Earth is not. It's an old English word of Germanic origin that means simply the ground. So how does it feel to hold a rock and really feel yourself holding it? It reminds me that the earth has been around for millions of years and that I'm just a brief visitor here. And that always has a calming effect on me. May it offer the same to each of you. All right, now we're going to send the young people upstairs with their rocks and with some light from our chalice. And as they go, we will be singing to them, "This Little Light of Mine."
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
All right, so the baskets are making their way around the room, and there's one coming from the back of the room as well. Please take a moment to select a stone that you feel drawn to. Keep it in your hand and pass the basket on. For those on Zoom, I invite you to find a rock or some weighty small object nearby that you can hold in your hand. There might be a rock just right outside your door or in your rock collection. As I shared earlier, I'm Lindsay Dunckel, and I'm serving as worship associate this morning, assisting the Reverend Kevin Tarsa in carving out this holy hour of our coming together to lift up that which we deem of worth, an expansive definition of what it means to worship. Welcome, one and all in the room and on Zoom on this first morning of December as we shift into the theme of presence. How, you might wonder, in times such as these, can we focus on presence? The strategist and activist Daniel Hunter, who coaches and trains movements across the globe, tells us that at times like these, the key is to avoid perpetuating the autocrat's goals of fear, isolation, exhaustion, and disorientation. Just our being here together is a first step in that. To keep ourselves grounded and centered can be a subversive act. To form and nurture connections with others, to find ways to rest and restore, to orient and reorient ourselves and each other to values that matter. That is what we can do here. It's an added bonus that it can subvert the agenda of autocrats. So are those baskets of rocks finding their way around the room? Excellent. There they are. Let us take a moment to take a deep, cleansing breath. To remind ourselves that we are holding a piece of the ground that holds us up each day, that we are right here, right now. May we let go of the tugs on our minds of things that have happened, of things that will happen or might happen or should happen. For now, let us rest in the present, a rock in our hand, solid and strong and here.
I need my rock. How was Thanksgiving? I'm seeing delicious, lots of, any challenging conversations? Lindsay named one of the important likely challenges of the days and months ahead, that we might be pulled continually off balance by a barrage of shocking actions and pronouncements, keeping us fearful, isolated, exhausted, and disoriented, which is a conscious tactic of autocratic leaders, in particular because it can work so effectively on the conscientious. Those who, for the sake of integrity, will be drawn to respond to everything, which will be more than any of us can do. So to begin this month focused on practicing presence, we're framing the work at hand as holy grounding, looking for ways to stay meaningfully centered, rooted, connected, present. And as we do with so many themes, we're starting close in today on this first Sunday of the month with the personal, so personal presence. Yes, there will be much to do. Join your board members after the service next Sunday on the 8th, or Tuesday evening the 10th on Zoom to share your current insights and perceptions about what we might be called to do in this time. What will be important for all our doing, whatever that will be, is to stay grounded in who we are when we're not fearful, isolated, exhausted, and disoriented. When we are anchored in what I like to think of as our deepest self. It will be important to stay present internally while at the same time remaining present enough to what's happening in the world, to the reality of what is, so that our doing can be skillful and sustainable and effective. So to strengthen our own ability to stay present no matter what comes our way, I invite us to turn this morning to our bodies for some help. Now, I know those of us who are head types, who are drawn to Unitarian Universalism for its valuing of intellectual integrity, for us, this may seem unnecessary or silly or off the mark, but neurological research keeps trying to point out to our cerebral selves that our minds and our bodies are not separate entities. That in fact, while our minds like to think they're in control, our bodies are usually running the show. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt captured this memorably when he wrote about our emotions, which present first as physical responses. It's not first a mental, it's first a physical response. And then we know, oh, I'm angry because of what's going on physically. He said, our experience of being a mind trying to control everything, he said, is like a monkey trying to ride an elephant. He said, when things are going well, when everything's calm, the monkey can kind of get the elephant to go where it wants the elephant to go. But as soon as the elephant is startled or afraid or stubborn or determined, there is nothing to do but hang on for the ride. So let's work with our inner elephant this morning and our inner monkey, beginning with some stretching in the form of a body prayer that was created by Annie Scott, who is a longtime Unitarian Universalist religious educator, and who was in fact our main contact for this congregation with the Unitarian Universalist Association until she retired in June. So whether here or on Zoom, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to engage this stretching in ways that work safely for your body. And if you're watching this online later too, I invite you to actually join this stretch. So we're going to begin with our hands in front of us in the familiar prayer pose. So those fingertips touching from both hands neurologically, that's an integrating pose. All right, here's a pose to find our inner quiet. Then we'll raise our arms up high to open ourselves to the spirit of life, to a God of love, to the universe, to what is beyond us, and at the same time includes us. Think of yourself as a funnel, willing to take this in. And we'll draw our hands to our hearts to feed and affirm the strength of our inner voice. We'll just turn our hands upwards to offer our kindness and our respect to others, extend them outward to offer our gifts to the world, and lift them up high over our heads, reaching out to this wide world, being open to whatever it might offer us. Gathering it all in, bringing our hands back down to our heart, and returning to our stillness, our center, hands together, that place of inner quiet. Here it comes again. From there, to lift our arms up high to all that is beyond and including us. Hands to our hearts to feed and affirm that inner voice. Turning our hands upwards to offer our kindness and compassion and strength. Extending outward to give what we have to the world. And up and out to the wide world, taking in what it has to offer. Drawing it into ourselves, into our heart. So that we can return to that quiet center. One more time. Our hands upward to take in to affirm our inner voice. Hands upward to offer, and outward to offer, and upward to offer, and to open. Drawing it all in back to our hearts and our place of stillness. And one last time without any words. Thank you. If ever you are feeling closed, tight, fearful, caught in a spiral of thought, opening your body, extending to receive, gathering in, reaching, coming back to center, that perhaps with music, actually. It may help you re-enter the present moment from all the rest of that stuff, right? If you're doing this, it's hard to be elsewhere. Staying with our bodies and linking our bodies with our awareness, I invite you into another practice. Today's kind of a box of tools, like from a yard sale. Here's a bunch of stuff that might serve you. It's a 5-4-3-2-1 practice. You may know this. So I invite you first to notice, without thinking too hard, 5 things that you can see right now. In your mind's eye, if your eyes don't allow it. Just count 5 things. 1, 2, something else. 3, something else. 4, something else. 5. I invite you to notice 4 things that you can feel right now. It might be on the surface of your body, or it might be inside. 4 things you can feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I invite you to notice 3 things that you can hear right now near or far, in your mind's ear if your hearing does not allow it. 3 things you can hear right now. I invite you to notice 2 things you can smell right now, if your sense of smell allows, or in your mind's nose, if need be. 2 things. And I invite you to notice 1 thing you can taste right now, or maybe it's a lack of taste that you taste. Again, in your imagination, if need be. Our bodies like to stay in the present. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, a sensory practice that can bring us right to this moment when we're being pulled into a whirlwind of what ifs, or memories of the past, or concerns of the future. A grounding in the body and in the senses. And if you're wanting to draw on this later at some point and can't remember the order, it does not matter. Choose the 5 senses in any order. 5 things, 4 things, 3 things, 2 things, 1 thing. A practice that leads so beautifully right to an awareness of our breathing. Oh, that. The breathing, that most present of physical actions. The breathing that we can take for granted, most of us, most of the time. The breathing that can always be holy ground for us, no matter where we are. And oh, breathing as part of singing, and singing with others, better yet. In this meditation on breathing by Sarah Dan Jones, we begin simply with breathe in, breathe out. 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 Breathe in. Feel free to harmonize. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Just breathe. I invite you to follow your in-breath all the way in, from start to finish. And to follow your out-breath all the way out, from start to finish. Keep following. Chances are your thoughts may have already gone somewhere else. My stomach's growling. I heard a ding. This is the natural state for us humans. The point is not to prevent that, but instead, whenever we notice our thoughts have gone somewhere else, simply to notice it and begin again. Follow the in-breath all the way in. Follow your out-breath all the way out. Keep following. How's that shopping list coming? Or your plans to get the oil changed? Or your memories of the movie you just saw? Or maybe you're feeling frustrated by the interruptions. Thing is, any of those is perfect, because what we're practicing, the skill and the muscle that we're strengthening by doing it over and over again, is beginning again. That's what we're strengthening. Beginning again. Follow the in-breath all the way in. The out-breath all the way out. And when you notice you've gone somewhere else, just notice that and begin again. Following. In this edition of meditation, we're not practicing meditating. We're practicing beginning again, which some will understand as the same thing, with implications for other parts of our lives. The ability to offer forgiveness, for example, to ourselves as well as to others, which requires first and foremost, no matter what, our noticing and our compassion and our beginning again. No matter how many times our thoughts and feelings have wandered elsewhere, beginning again. That's the practice. We're going to pick up on this piece a little bit each Sunday this month, practicing beginning again to help us prepare to be present, no matter what may come our way. Simply beginning again. Beginning again.
All is Not Lost by J.J. Flagg and Victoria Stafford. Written after the recent election, in the spirit of beginning again and beginning again in these times.
Friend, go to the window. Open the door. Move away from the screen. Pocket your phone.
For just a moment, sometime today, let this December air mess with your hair.
Caress your crumpled, tear-streaked face. Kiss your bare hands as it has since you were small, as it will as you grow old.
All is not lost.
Go to the window. Open the door.
If you can't, if you're sick or in jail or at work with no break,
If you're stuck in an airport or riding a train,
or in labor right now,
if your body can't move to the window or door, just imagine you can smell the rain, taste the wind, the body and breath of the beautiful world.
close your eyes.
Breathe deep. Drink deep. The nourishing, life-giving air, and let it be spirit inside you.
Breathe in life and breathe out again life. Breathe more. This is your life.
And our life together, you and I, and
All the beloveds at risk now as never before, humans and trees, rivers and land, animals, children and birds.
breathe in love for them. Breathe in love for us all. Protection, resolve.
And when you're able, when you're ready, whenever you can, breathe out a prayer of hope.
This may take a while.
We may have to hold our breath a long while, gulping in air as if we were desperate, which today, my friend, we are.
Breathe in rage and fear and fury, bone weariness, grief, panic, disgust.
Breathe out a whisper, a sliver, a shiver, a single frail molecule of hope, to be carried like milkweed, God only knows where.
You know this and must not forget. Still and always, we are held within and we comprise a larger love.
We are held within, and we comprise the mighty, irrefutable persistence and resistance of our ancestors and the urgent, laughing beauty of our children.
We are held within, and we comprise holy and ferocious power.
Spirit, breath moves through us still, inspiring, insisting.
Any act of love we undertake henceforth will be a revolution.
Open your window.
Go to the door.
Reach for a neighbor, even a stranger.
Now, I believe, as I didn't before, that you could knock on almost any door, tremble on the threshold, and when they open, collapse in their arms.
They'll hold you, you'll hold them, weeping, fists pounding, amazed at your brazen audacity, a little embarrassed, but mostly emboldened.
What on earth is left for us to lose?
Take a breath, taste the wind, drink the rain, this feast prepared anew each day.
Remember who you are and whose.
The beloveds and beloved who know you by your name.
Who expect great things of you.
Which is to say that you will keep on keeping on, never alone.
And with all your dignity still shining.
Breathe deep and notice now who's hurting, who now is in danger, who needs your prayers of hope, and more than that, way more, in order to survive.
Hold out your brave and loving hands, stronger than you know, your brave and beating heart.
And do not, under any circumstances,
let go of beauty and truth.
Do not let go of faith and hope and love.
We are held within, and we comprise a holiness no tyrant can diminish or demean. I invite you to notice that stone. Got it? I invite you to have it in your hand, in your brave and loving hands once again. Yeah, already carefully placed in pockets. Drink deep the nourishing, life-giving air and let it be spirit inside you. Breathe in life and breathe out again life. So with this stone in your hands, I invite you to call up your joys and sorrows, the feelings and thoughts held in your heart this morning. What part of you is feeling grateful today? Joyful, content, ready? What part of you is feeling fearful, desperate, bone weary? What part of you is feeling strangely at ease, comforted, at peace? What part of you is grief-stricken, disgusted, quietly angry, confused, discouraged? What part of you is feeling expectant, open-hearted, revived? Let the stone in your hand be a bearer of it all, a touchstone for the fullness of all that you feel. Glad for those feelings or no? Let it be infused, be a symbolic holder of all you hold. The stone formed long before you and sure here to be long after you in some form. Now don't panic. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to trade your stone with someone else's, but only for a few moments. You'll get it back. So I invite you to find someone, or if you're on your own or on Zoom, imagine someone maybe. And for a moment, swap stones. Let's see if we make sure everyone has a chance to swap with someone. Don't let them go too far. So got a new stone in hand, someone else's stone. So with someone else's stone, I invite you to think about who that someone else is, even if you don't know them yet. I invite you to call up your compassion, your caring, your empathy, your longing heart, and to offer silently your kindness, your love, your prayers, your hope for the person whose sacred stone you now hold in your hands. Breathe out a whisper, a sliver, a single frail molecule of hope to be carried like milkweed. God only knows where. All the while you and they and all of us held. I invite you to return that stone gently to the previous bearer, remembering the experience of holding it and remembering that you have been held. Not the same stone anymore, not the same stone. And now it can go back to that safe place if you need, or it can stay in your hand. Briefly, I want to leave you with two final practices to add to your collection of grounding tools. This is so you have a bunch to choose from for when you need. The first is a practice suggested this month to those of you in Soul Matters circles, the practice of a sentence a day journal. Yes, just a single sentence for those who can never quite keep up a journaling practice. This might be actually doable. Here's the practice: to think back on the day you just had, notice something that stands out for any reason, and to write a single sentence about that. Nothing fancy or elaborate, but real. And here's the thing: one sentence that captures not merely what happened, but also how you felt about what happened, or something you thought about or because of what happened. Single sentence. And why? Because like beginning again, this foundational practice of reflecting on our life has wide benefits. To notice our life, to peer inside it underneath the surface for a moment, and to capture it, even in a very simple way that allows us later to look back and learn from it, even in a single sentence, to see our movement over time, or the stuckness, or the patterns, the stories, the growth as a resource for our ongoing journey. So to assist you on this very first day of the month conveniently, a month's worth of journal for you. We're going to pass these around with the offering. I invite you to take one. And if you're a person who's got a long time journaling practice, you're on this, feel free to take one to share with somebody else. And if you're hesitant, I invite you to take one anyway, just in case. Let it stare at you for the time when it's ready. One sentence. And finally, a paradoxical holy grounding. Here, 1 month out from the election, as we look ahead and anticipate the future. In a November 12 New York Times piece found by Lindsay, Adam Grant wrote, "Humans may be the only creature that can imagine an unknown future, but that doesn't mean we're any good at it." When it comes to political and economic events, one landmark study he pointed out found that the average expert was roughly as accurate as a dart-throwing chimpanzee, or maybe an elephant-riding monkey. This turns out to be true as well for our predictions about things like our own careers and relationships and our feelings we expect to have about events. In the heat of the moment, Grant notes, we over-index on our anguish today and underestimate our capacity to adapt tomorrow. Yet, Grant writes, a hunch about the future can feel like a certainty because it is so overwhelmingly present. It's staring us in the face, he writes. Especially in times of great anxiety, it can be all too tempting and all too dangerous to convince ourselves that the future is just as visible. Acknowledging that the future is unknowable can bring some comfort when it feels as if the world is shattered. It can also offer a dose of humility sorely needed in a chaotic world, he adds. Finally, he says, it's unsettling to realize we have no power to predict the future because it means we aren't in control of our fate. At the best of times, that can leave us holding our breath. But in the worst of times, embracing uncertainty proves liberating. It reminds us how quickly our fortune can change. The goal of living love through the practice of presence, whatever practices and tools we draw on, and I know you have many of your own, the goal is not to help us feel certain. Though many days I would like that to be true. The goal is to help us be resilient and flexible and tuned into what's true and available now, to keep us tuned into what is, and at the same time, who we are. Uncertainty is a surprising tool for finding our grounding, but it's the tool that perhaps best reflects this Unitarian Universalist tradition that insists on our openness to change, insists that truth is always unfolding and never set in stone, insists that we adapt to the changing world, and it names that our own beloved tradition is itself never complete and never perfect. In a word, our tradition names openness to transformation as one of our very deep values, one of the ways we live out our central value of love. Staying open. A stone in hand, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 senses, singing together, breathing in and out and following the breath all the way, or more important, beginning again, a sentence a day of reflection, remembering the liberating quality of uncertainty among other possibilities. May we each find the grounding practices, the holy ground, that will reliably help us to be most present, most whole, no matter what is arriving, no matter what is happening. Here at the beginning of December, looking ahead and trying to stay present in the moment. So may we be.
We greeted one another this morning by making eye contact, looking directly at one another, a seemingly simple act of presence that acknowledges our shared humanity. Now imagine a day in which no one meets your eyes, no one acknowledges your shared humanity. Each person passing by ignores you. Perhaps you have experienced this yourself. The cumulative acts of ignoring are listed by people experiencing homelessness as one of the most difficult parts of the experience, feeling invisible at best and actively shunned or less than human at worst. Our local partners, Hospitality House, will receive half of all Sunday service donations in the month of December. The staff and volunteers at Hospitality House make sure that every guest is truly seen, Their mission is to bring homeless people in Nevada County into a circle of community caring that offers shelter, sustenance, medical care, advocacy, opportunity, dignity, and hope, as Hospitality House assists them in transitioning from homelessness to housing. We pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessings of abundance, to share that abundance with a local nonprofit that shares our values, to visibly bring in the harvest at this cherished hour. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. It offers an opportunity to ground ourselves in the spiritual practice that is generosity. This morning's offering will be gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity. We dedicate these offerings to the ideal that each of us experience connections that ground us in our shared humanity.
For those who are members, I want to update you on that 50-50 version of the offering we're doing instead of the separate envelopes for 100%. So after several months, the total compared to last year was within $4. And actually now it's higher now than it was before. So just to report out to you that process, they said they'd check it out for a while and see how it's going. That's working well. I want to thank everyone who is here for the first time today or first time recently, just to honor the risk that you take when you walk through new doors into a new space and a new community, not necessarily sure what's there. So thanks for taking that risk. We're glad you're here. Some thank yous. Thank you, Lindsay, for being worship associate very much. Andy Dooley Miller is fielding all the AV by himself this morning. Thank you, Andy. Give him some special thanks when you're headed out. Eileen, thank you for being on chat once again. Shanti for the beautiful autumnal setting, perfect for Thanksgiving weekend. Jean and Carol and Corey for greeting people so well and warmly. Sue Gregory, where are you, Sue? for being our lay pastoral care person today. Thanks for being present. Katz and Susan and Carol Nimick, thanks for helping organize refreshments today. And Cheryl Spalding and Linda Siska are up with our youngest ones. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Charlene, for offering the reading today. Yes. And Toby, thanks very much for the music. A couple of announcements just to let you know. Humanism discussion group meets this week, a Parkinson's support group, a couple of them meet this week. There's a singing meditation circle. Come join us on Thursday evening, really quite wonderful. There's an arts and crafts circle that gathers to do crafts. Today, after the service, for those who are just wanting to know a little bit more, we'll gather in the library, which is just outside this room, not very far, for a little introduction, getting to know each other and a little introduction to this tradition. And there's a special holiday bazaar happening this Sunday and the next 2 Sundays, all in the room, all the way in the back. Come check it out. And I think they're still accepting things for the bazaar for future Sundays. So come see if there's something you just cannot live without or someone you love needs to have. As always, check out the website for updates on all kinds of things that are happening and changing. I invite us with this idea of presence or this idea of starting close in this week with the personal. I invite us to rise and sing one final song. There's a river flowing in my soul. And no, there will not be words up on the screen. If it's new to you, you'll catch on quite quickly, I am sure. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, whether here or on Zoom or at home later, and to sing. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me, that I'm somebody, There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river. There's a river. There's a river. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Breathed into the World by Reverend Sandra Fees. Whoever you are, wherever you go, may you know the stillness of winter and the call to love.
May you see the moon silvering the night sky, and let the dark of midnight plunge you into your truest self and fling you back out again to a world in need of who you are.
May there be the familiar carols you know by heart and new melodies to set you free.
May there be feasting and frolicking, kindness and wonderment.
And may there be wise people to follow a star in the east and a child to teach us to love, and enough magic to let the imagination go wild, to let Christmas arrive with its enchantments, with its glitter, glow, and gold, to let what wants to be born break through.
May the presence of the holy crowd out fear, hate, and worry, and proclaim in this moment that peace and goodwill might yet be breathed into the world, and avow that we too can give birth to love wherever we go, whoever we are.
And as we go, may we
carry the flame of peace and love
until we meet again.
Join us for refreshments, connecting, bazaar, and UU 101, and otherwise we'll see you next Sunday for our singing meditation service.